Hi, everyone. Welcome to Kismet. I'm your host, Jackie Abramov, and thank you so much for joining me. If you'd like to show your support, I would love it if you would click the like button and subscribe. It really does help me if you would engage in some way. So thank you so much for being here. And like always, I'm going to jump right in. So I titled this Midsummer Melts into Magic with the Retrogrades because if you truly want to know where the magic is in life, it is in these moments that we aren't expecting it. Some of us think that magic is something we're supposed to command to happen, but really, magic is in these unknown spaces. It's when we are open, when we aren't trying to force life to happen, and then suddenly some synchronicity happens, and boom, we see the magic of life. So, some words that kind of came to me as I was preparing for this are maybe a little cliche. Maybe they've been overused. Maybe they've been used in ways that were hypocritical. But I'm going to talk about them from a way I feel is really important. So, the words are ask and it will be given to you, seek and you will find, knock and the door will be opened. And magic works like this. Okay, what you seek is seeking you, and you are a magnet for what is in your heart. What is in your heart is what you are seeking. And so often I work with and talk to so many humans. We don't know what's in our own heart. We don't know what we're seeking. And so we are magnetizing life towards us from this completely almost oblivious state. This isn't wrong or bad, just pointing out that, you are seeking something, whether or not you know what it is, you're seeking something, and whatever you're seeking is seeking you. That might be a partnership, that might be a job, and as you're going to hear later on, some of the things I'm going to share, um, it might be a certain kind of energy. But if you don't know what you're seeking, then you're going to be magnetizing towards you things that you may or may not really want. So, as we approach these upcoming retrogrades, especially with this Mercury in Leo retrograde, I can't think of a better thing for you and I to contemplate than what is in your heart and what are you seeking? Because what you're seeking is what you're going to get. So if you currently don't know what you're seeking, look around in your life and see, because all the things that you're manifesting are going to help you see what the truth of what you're seeking is. Now, if I'm really honest with you, I think that connecting with the real magic of this midsummer retrograde is going to be about learning about your shadow, because our shadow holds our desires and everything is manifested from desire. So what we seek is what we desire. And both of those things are in our shadow. So the shadow isn't this bad thing or something wrong with us. It isn't negative. The shadow is simply holding on to our unconscious desires. And we are being driven from that place. Carl Jung has a quote. He says, um, you don't become conscious by imagining figures of light. You become conscious by bringing what's in the shadow into consciousness, or something like that. I don't have it in front of me, so that was not verbatim, but essentially it's this concept that we become conscious by looking at what's in our shadow, by looking at what's in our unconscious. And from this place, we can learn to direct our desires and therefore direct our manifestations. So if we don't know what we desire, again, it's because it's in the shadow. So we're hiding it from ourselves. So I just implore you, what if over the next few weeks or this year, for the rest of this year, you seek to know what's in your shadow. I will honestly never forget the year that I sought to figure out what shadow really meant because I could see that I didn't fully understand shadow. And I listened to so many different teachings about people trying to explain it. And everything I listened to, it seemed like they weren't really quite getting to the core of what it was. And obviously, I now need to do a podcast to talk about what it is. But I'm sure you can glean a little bit from what I've said already, that the shadow holds our desires. So it's inherently elusive because, right, we don't like to admit what our true desires are because maybe our desires are things that we have judged as bad. And typically, everything we've judged as bad is what goes in our shadow, which is why it is so difficult for us to know what we want. So, something to think about, what are you seeking this summer? What do you want to seek? And maybe you don't want to seek the shadow. Maybe you want to seek something else. That's totally fine. You can seek whatever you want to seek. Now, we already have two planets in retrograde, Neptune and Pluto. And Saturn just stationed retrograde on July the 12th. So really three planets already. And on July 17th, we're going to have Mercury go into retrograde. Now, the retrogrades are not really that planets are moving backwards, rather that the way that we're viewing the planets from Earth is that they look like they're going backwards. It has to do with the orbits, but no planet ever moves backwards. But it does symbolize something. It symbolizes a time for us to slow down, to look inward, to become more contemplative, and to go back over something that we think we've already moved through. So often retrogrades bring up tests and testing. Now, Saturn's retrograde from July the 12th to November the 27th. And with Saturn, Saturn has moved into Aries and is going to move back into Pisces. So we started something new this year with this Saturn and Aries energy, and it's going to become bigger next year. But for the rest of 2025, we're really needing to finish up something that has to do with Pisces energy. And you want to remember that Saturn is a planet of karma. Okay. Karma is about what we're here to learn. Karma isn't bad. Karma is about these tests that we need to understand. So we get tests in life, and the tests are to see how we're going to respond. If we're going to continue to respond the same way, if we're going to continue to be triggered, or if after the test, after we experience the test, we realize, oh, that is something I have actually moved through. I'm not getting triggered anymore. I'm able to allow that to be what it is. I've learned from this experience. And you could be tested in all kinds of things, right? I mean, you could be tested in forgiveness. You could be tested in love. You could be tested in your boundaries. We're dealing with Pisces. Pisces has a lot to do with illusions. It has to do with things that are very hidden. It's very shadow energy. But this means that the tests could be fast. They could be elusive. They could be difficult to discern. So now, as we're kind of needing to, button something up, we're needing to zip things up, we're needing to put a bow on something that we've been trying to move through over the last 2.5 years. This is a time to look at, okay, what are the decisions? What are the friendships? What are the fears? What are the addictions? What are the business decisions? What's coming up? What's the test? This is a time to acknowledge where you've been tested over the last 2.5 years in regards to the Piscean energy, the Piscean part of your chart, and check in, what's here? What needs my attention? This is a time to really buckle down and figure out how to face whatever this fear is. And please know that not everyone is going to face their fears, and you might not face your fears, and that's okay. Some of us are going to be in projection. We're going to continue to point the finger at others. And this is because, astrology teaches us, it reveals that there's always polarity. There's always people who are going to be on one spectrum. There's always going to be people on another. And some of us are going to be on both spectrums. We're going to learn some lessons and we're not going to learn some other ones. And that's just a part of being alive. So you want to just notice though, are you staying in a fear? Are you staying in projection? Are you tending to point a finger at other people? Do you think that the outside world is the problem? Because if you are in any of those energies, you're not facing this Saturn energy for yourself. So just take some time to contemplate, what's been coming up. What is Saturn symbolizing for you? Where do you need to focus for yourself? Where are you needing to take authority? Where do you need to understand your lack of boundaries? Boundaries aren't about other people, they're about us. Where are you needing to own your boundaries? Where are you needing to own your shadow? As I mentioned in the 7-year cycle podcast, Uranus and Saturn are going to come together in 7 years. And this is a really important energetic opportunity for liberation. But some people are going to experience this as more and more constriction. So taking a look at okay, do you want to get more free in your life? Well, if you want to get more free, you have to be able to see where you're not free. And that's what Saturn and Uranus can teach us about. Okay, where are we not free? Where do we want to get more free? Now, as for Mercury, Mercury is going to station retrograde on July the 17th. It's going to be at an important degree. It's 15 degrees of Leo. And 15 degrees is this halfway point between summer solstice and autumn equinox. So there's something significant here. We are at this midpoint. We're in midsummer. Mercury is going to station retrograde. Mercury has to do with our mind, our perception. It's the way we're communicating every day. It's the way we communicate, the way we talk. And whenever Mercury goes retrograde, everybody likes to think, life is going to have all these problems. And the reason is because we're always trying to push for this linear movement. And when Mercury is in retrograde, we're needing to step out of linear time, take a little bit of a break, reassess things, examine what's going on. Now, I pulled up the moment that we have Mercury moving, stationing direct in this chart here, and just pointing out what happens in this initiation moment is that what we see is Mercury is making aspects, a positive aspect to Venus and a square to Juno. And what this tells me is that during this retrograde, there's most likely going to be a lot happening around partnerships, contracts, relationships, local communities, your networks, some friends. This is going to probably have a lot to do with people you're in intimate relationships with. It's going to vary depending on everybody's chart, but we can see just from that aspect that something important is happening. There's going to be some need to review very closely how we're interacting with people and who we want to interact with. At the same time, Mars is going to be conjunct the South Node, and Mars is going to be square to Venus, sextile to Juno. So there's a lot of dynamic energy happening, and there's going to be some important decisions to make during this retrograde. You may want to wait till the end, but maybe not. With Mars conjunct the South Node, there's likely something that's needing to end, something that's needing to be cut down, severed. Maybe this is a commitment, maybe a contract. There could be even a feeling of letting go of perfectionism. This could be letting go of needing to control something, okay? because we have, Mars connected with the South Node in Virgo, and Virgo has a lot to do with where we're trying to control and caretake people and force things to happen. At the same time, we have the moon conjunct Chiron, and both are squaring the sun. So for some people, there might be some really big family wounds that are coming up during the retrograde. This could be like dealing with something in your home and your family. Could be choices that you need to make. It could be that you're needing to let go of someone in your home, or you're needing to let go of a home. There's a lot that could come up. So glean what works for you and leave the rest. Retrogrades ask us to review and reassess. So we need to go back over things. We need to look closely. Don't rush. This is a fire energy that is saying, okay, we need to pump the brakes. So you want to look at your relationships. Some people are likely to get calls from exes, okay? You want to be clear. And this goes back to what I was saying in the beginning. What you seek is seeking you. So if you still have energy that's connected to your exes, they're going to be seeking you. If you want to know why they're reaching out, it's because their energy is still in you. It may not be at a conscious level. It may be in the shadow. You maybe still have a desire for them to love you, want you, connect with you. That's not wrong, but just acknowledge that it's there. Then you can begin to release it. Now, a really important dynamic I want to talk about here is, the energy that you are sending out into the world is the energy that you are drawing to you. This is what I was mentioning in the beginning, okay? If you have this desire to save someone, if you have a desire to help someone, if you want somebody to be different than what they are, you want to change people, okay? If you want to be the hero, then you're going to attract a partner, a friend, a circumstance, an experience that is reflecting the opposite of that. So if you want to be the hero, you're going to attract a victim. If you want to save someone, you're going to attract in people who need to be saved. If you are wanting to change someone, you're going to attract in somebody who doesn't want to be changed. That's magnetism. And this happens in really subtle ways. We don't realize we're doing it because it's happening in our shadow. And I can attest to this. I was in a partnership where I very subtly felt that I kind of had it together. I was the hero. I had my life, my shit together in a way. And I was the person that someone else could rely on. I could make the decisions. I could be the caretaker. And in this very subtle way, what I wanted was to be that in order to be valuable. And so, you know what I attracted? I attracted a partner who had the energy of needing to be taken care of, but that would never make me feel valuable. One, it wasn't his job to make me feel valuable, but also just seeing that, did I really want to take care of somebody? No, what I really wanted was to feel valuable, which inherently wasn't something he could give me. But that magnetism, right? That drew in a partner that wanted to be taken care of. And ultimately, I ended up exhausted because heroes need victims and victims need heroes. So we want to really tune in with this retrograde and look deep inside. Are you embodying a character or an archetype or a way of being that's drawing you into an energy that you really don't want to be in anymore? Because the people you're attracting to you, they're connected to the character or the archetype you think you want to embody. So during this retrograde, this is an amazing time to ask yourself, what character, what role am I trying to identify as? And is that one that I want to keep playing? Do you want to play the character or the archetype of the helper? Because then you're attracting in people who constantly need your help. So if you're tired of taking care of people, you don't want to be irritated with the people. You want to be looking at, why am I still holding the identity of needing to take care of people? Now, this goes much deeper than I can explain on a podcast. This isn't necessarily something that you can just release or get rid of overnight. This is exactly why I do somatic release and reprogramming work on myself and with others, because these things are ingrained in not just our mind, but our body, our every way of being. So it takes time to reprogram this. It takes intention. And this is the perfect time for it because retrogrades are when we want to get really, really intentional. So we don't need the outside world to change, right? We need to look inward. This is the time. So notice if you find yourself thinking about what you think other people should do with their life. If you think you know what other people need to make their life better or to get better, or you think you know the answers for other people, okay? This is a shadow energy called projection. And what happens when we do this is we're avoiding dealing with something inside of us. And instead, we try to deal with it for other people. This isn't bad or wrong, but I just want you to notice that this is not helping you to connect to your heart and your truth and your desires. So if you find yourself trying to solve other people's problems or help other people out of their dilemmas, instead, be brave during this retrograde, especially, but anytime, and ask yourself, what do I want to do for me that I'm trying to avoid? What's a fear that I want to face, but I'm afraid? This is a way of redirecting your energy, giving you something to contemplate on. And again, if you need support with this is what I do in astrology and somatic work. This is how we align to our intuition. This is how we draw ourselves into our own path and out of projection. So, just to reiterate the key takeaways and kind of inspiration for this Mercury retrograde, July 17th to August 11th. And I will be jumping in with some other thoughts during this retrograde. Number one, you want to be thinking about, what are you seeking? What do you want to seek during this time? Number two, what will connect you to inspiration? Number three, how do you want to express yourself? And number four, how can all of these things be a vessel for you to offer your gifts and your expression to the world? Okay, because Mercury in Leo connects us with the heart's desires, our personal expression, our solar essence, what we want to bring out into the world. This is our solar purposes, not just one purpose. We have many. So we want to connect with, what makes us feel alive. That's what Leo is all about. It's creativity. And creativity can be art, and it can be, doing things that we consider or we maybe consider artistic. But creativity can be cooking, it can be walking, it can be arranging your home, it can be designing something for your business, it can be preparing something for your business. There's so many ways to connect with our creative essence, and we all have different ways of doing this. So I hope that you tune in with this during this retrograde. Don't be afraid of it. Give yourself permission to slow down, enjoy the process. And if you'd like to connect for any reason, I would love to hear from you. But I hope this is a kismet time for you, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.